Good day everyone, my name is Ojude from Nigeria.
Hello, my name is Chantal Nyaria from Nairobi, Kenya.
My name's Jomo Dallas Ochumanga, and I'm from Zambia.
Standing before you is Zamazi Zintandi, and I'll be speaking on the impact of drug abuse on the mental health of teens in South Africa.
Hello everyone, my name is Chikunal Bintitogo. I'm from Nigeria and I'm going to be speaking at Hangout with Stars. See you there.
Hi guys, I'm Comrade Kevin Reyes. I'm from South Africa and I will be speaking at Hangout with the Stars. See you guys there. Bye.
Good day everyone, my name is Ojude from Nigeria.
Hello, my name is Chantal Nyaria from Nairobi, Kenya.
My name's Jomo Dallas Ochumanga, and I'm from Zambia.
Standing before you is Zamazi Zintandi, and I'll be speaking on the impact of drug abuse on the mental health of teens in South Africa.
Hello everyone, my name is Chikunal Bintitogo. I'm from Nigeria and I'm going to be speaking at Hangout with Stars. See you there.
Hi guys, I'm Comrade Kevin Reyes. I'm from South Africa and I will be speaking at Hangout with the Stars. See you guys there. Bye.
Good evening, everybody. good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. We're expecting more guests to join in, so kindly exercise some patience as we expect others to join so we can continue. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. You're welcome to the senior session for Hangout with the Stars. You're all welcome. I can notice some persons here. I can see our moderator for the evening, Miss Alice Akko. I can see some panelists here. Elsie is here. I see some guests, Fola Shade Wahid. Please, can you, in the chat box, can you just write your full name and the country you're joining us from? Please, can we do that while we expect more guests to join in before we begin? Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. We are expecting more guests to join in. So if you're just coming in, please do well to type in your full name and your location, the country you're joining in from in the chat box. You're all welcome. We're expecting more guests before we begin. Thank So far, we've gotten responses from two persons. We can see Wahid Rashida Folashade joining in from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. You can see Onokuo, sorry if I'm making a blunder of your name. Or we can see Tobe Chukwu Brianna joining in from Nigeria. So far, we can see two persons who have indicated where they're joining in from. So kindly type in the comments in the chat box where you're joining in from. Thank you. And please mute your mic.
To me,
Hello, everybody. If you're just joining in, we would appreciate an introduction from you. We want to know where you're joining from. So can you send in the chat box the full name and the country you're joining in from? So far, we've gotten responses from two persons, but we want to hear from others. You're all welcome. Can you send in your name, your country in the chat box? We hope to hear from you. So we are still expecting others to join so we can start. We're starting shortly. Okay, I can see Benedicta Giac from Ghana. You're welcome, Benedicta. You're welcome. Please, yes, I can see Namani Iroma joining in from Port Harcourt, Nigeria. You're welcome. Kindly send in the chat box. If you're just joining us, let's know your name. Let's know where you're joining in from. We'd really appreciate that. While we're expecting others to join us, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. We are so glad to have all of you joining. Amazing. You are. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but I can see not from South Africa. You're welcome. To the Hangout Discuss. You're all welcome. Okay. Isabel Mwapo from Nigeria. You're welcome. You're welcome to Hangout Discuss. You're welcome. Can't introduce yourself if you've not done that. We're about to start shortly, and we can't start if you don't get to hear from our guests and our audience. We need to know you. Just introduce yourself. We appreciate that. Let me just do that in the chat box, your full name and where you're joining from. We really want to hear from you. Thank you. We'll be starting shortly. So kindly introduce yourself if you've not done so. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. So, I noticed some persons have not themselves. Not heard from. I can see Collins here. I can see Faith. I can see Henry. Can see Enrique. I can see okay, Chico has introduced. So if you've not done that, can you introduce yourself? We're about to start, so we can't start without getting that introduction from our audience first. Please, we want to hear from you. Send in the chat box your full name and where you're joining in from. Thank you so much. Today on Hangout with the Stars is a very unique day because we get to hear from the senior category. And today's session is on drug abuse, a pandemic among teenagers. So we have very brilliant young minds who are going to be discussing on that theme on various subtopics. We have 5 panelists for today, and we have a wonderful moderator for the evening. We have the delectable Alice Akor, who is going to be moderating, and I'll be reading her profile shortly. Okay, but before I do that, I still need some introduction to trickle in so I can read the profile of our moderator for the evening so we can start right away. So kindly do that introduction in the chat box. We are expecting to hear from you. Alice, are you there? If you're there, can you say hello?
Hello.
Okay, it's good to know you're here. Just a head count of our panelists. Let me be sure you're here before I officially, welcome Alice. Is Carlton here? Carlton, if you're here, can you say present?
Present.
Great, welcome. Elsie, if you're here, can you say present?
Present.
Amazing. Kessia, if you're here, can you say present?
Present.
Okay, amazing. Chantal, if you're here, can you say present? Chantal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, welcome. And Zamazizi, if you're here, can you say present? Zamazizi, are you here? Zamazizi, are you there? Are you there? We're about to start. Are you there? Can you say present if you can hear me, Zamazizi? Okay. Maybe she may be having a technical challenge. So we'll begin right away. And our moderator for today is a delectable lady, a very open-minded and outstanding lady. And I'll be reading her profile shortly before I hand over the session officially to her to moderate. Okay, so Alice Akor is from Rwanda, and Alice Akor is a dynamic Africa education and edtech specialist with a passion for transforming education systems through culturally relevant, inclusive, and tech-enabled learning. With over a decade of experience in child safeguarding, youth empowerment, and program leadership, she serves as the co-founder and head of missions at WIT 21 Hub, where she leads impactful initiatives focused on teacher development, digital learning, and student-centered innovation across Rwanda and Nigeria. Alice is committed to decolonizing education by integrating African heritage, values, and storytelling into learning environments. She has trained top educational leaders, equipping them to deliver equitable, culturally responsive, and trauma-informed education in diverse contexts. She holds a master's in social work with research interests spanning edtech for social change, educational equity, and resilience learning. A published researcher and international conference speaker, Alice champions youth-led development, Pan-African innovation, and the reimagining of African education through global collaboration. In addition to her professional work, rather, Alice is the creator and host of the Godward Teen Podcast, a faith-based platform on Spotify and YouTube that mentors teenagers toward purpose-driven living. In her spare time, she brings early learning to life through animated content on her YouTube channel, Toddler Learning 360, which offers fun, educational videos for young children. You can see how rich the personality that is going to be moderating this session is. Alice is really a unique and outstanding lady. And without further ado, please join me with a round of applause and make welcome Alice Akor, who is going to be our moderator for the evening. You're welcome, Alice. Please, can we just give her a round of applause in the chat box? Can you just send your favorite speaker? Alice, you're welcome. You have the stage.
Thank you so much, God. Thank you so much for doing a fantastic job, just holding the fort. Welcome once again to Hangout with the Stars 2025. Yesterday was an amazing time. I enjoyed every speaker, the junior category that spoke on social media and its influence on teenagers and children. And today, like God has already mentioned, we're narrowing in on drug abuse. And like we spoke earlier yesterday, that these issues are very topical and have become such a public health concern that we really need to talk about it. And who best to talk about the challenges they face than the teenagers and the children themselves. So it's such an honor and a privilege to be moderating this session with the stars. Without further ado, I'll just make a roll call for my people. Carlton, you're here. I heard you earlier, Chantel. I think the only person I did not hear present was Zama. Zama Zizi, are you here now? Zama, are you here? Okay, yeah, I can see her. All right. So welcome everybody. We're going to dive in straight into the session. We're going to be starting out with Chantel. After Chantel, we'll go to Zama. After Zama, Elsie. After Elsie, Carlton. And then Keisha will be going as a fifth speaker. So we start with Chantel. I'll read Chantel's profile and then we go straight into the session.
Alice.
Yes.
Alice.
Okay. Okay, so we'll reorder. So Carlton goes first, and then the others, like I mentioned, will follow. Carlton, say hi if you're here, please.
Hi.
All right. So Carlton Gateru is a strong-willed teen with a passion for justice, politics, and debates. In his journey to try to make a difference in the justice system, he has developed very strong problem-solving skills like creative thinking, critical thinking, and communication. He is the president of the leading debate school in Kenya, Light Academy, which pushes him to be more social and interactive, as well as familiar with the problems facing the world today. Please, let's put our hands together as we welcome Carlton to take the floor. Welcome, Carlton. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Carlton. So, I mean, like, we are talking about drug abuse among teenagers today, and obviously it's a pandemic and needs to be addressed. So, a few questions just to get your opinion on these issues. So, what are the key reasons? What do you think are the key reasons behind the rise in teenage drug abuse? And why is it becoming a growing problem, Carlton?
Personally, I feel like there's four main reasons why drug abuse is on the rise among teenagers today. First is the mental health issues. Secondly is peer pressure and social influence. Third is the easy access to drugs. And the fourth one is the lack of education or awareness. I'd like to start with the mental health issues. Like anxiety, depression, and stress are increasingly common in teens, often due to family pressure, academic pressure, or just hopelessness. And according to the CDC, they did a research in 2023 and found out that over 42% of high school students reported cases of feeling hopeless or feeling sadness. And that is why most teenagers find themselves going or turning to drugs, especially in households where the parents feel like mental health is not a paramount issue, or where they neglect mental health. Teenagers may feel the need to turn to drugs as a source of comfort or to escape reality, quote unquote. Secondly is peer pressure and social influence. Because you see, in the society today, drugs have been normalized and they've been praised. They've been made to seem like they are what make people cool. They are what make teenagers cool. And teenagers may feel they need to use drugs just so that they may be accepted into the society, which is social influence. And also their friends may tell them to use drugs. They may feel they need to use drugs because their friends are telling them just use it. It's just a one-time thing. It's really nice, just use it. And eventually the teenager will get into drugs. And I feel like that is one of the biggest reasons that teenagers get into drugs in the first place. There's also the lack of education or awareness, because many teenagers today make uninformed decisions on drugs. Because you see, you might like the vape issue where people are told that they're less harmful than cigarettes, that they won't harm you much. That is misinformation that has been spread, and the teenagers are making uninformed decisions. They're not educated well on the issue, and they feel like, okay, since I've been told or the rumors being spread say that the drug is okay, then I'll use it because I'm not educated or I don't have the proper education. Then there's also the ease of access to drugs, because many teenagers have access to drugs easily because the drug laws and the people who are selling drugs are not, the drug laws are not as strict as they were before. And now drugs have been normalized in society, and even teenagers can get access to drugs easily through people on the street, people around, and people who don't care for the lives of these children but are just focused on making money. Yes.
So much, Carlton, for that very in-depth expository presentation. I mean, you mentioned a couple of things that really stood out to me, peer pressure being one of them, and of course, mental health issues being another. And this is something that we really need to begin to talk about in the African society. So thank you so much, Carlton, for really shedding light on those issues. I'll just want to, continue from where you left off. I want us to take the conversation a bit further. And I'll ask why. Please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Thank you. Thank you. So the question would be, how can it affect the health and future of teenagers? How can drug abuse affect the health and well-being and future of teenagers? And why do some teenagers start using drugs in the first place? Why do they start using drugs? How can drugs really affect the future of teenagers and the health of teenagers?
Personally, I feel like how drugs affect the health of the teenager in future is they get brain development issues because there are diseases such as wet brain, where the brain doesn't form well and it has a lower capacity to retain information because of the use of drugs. Like the brain formation and the retention of information by the brain is hindered by the use of drugs, because most of these drugs mess with you psychologically, they mess with you mentally, and that is what gives you the sense that you've escaped reality, and they give you that feeling, but they're really messing with your brain, and they make a teenager not be able to retain information, which is why most drug users drop out of school, because the daily cannabis users are 60% less likely to finish high school than the non-users, which was research done by Lancet Psychiatry in 2014.
Yeah,
And it
sure.
showed that
It should be.
sorry, they show that 60% of daily cannabis users are less likely to finish high school. So they're less likely to finish high school because their brains can't retain as much information as before. If their brain can't retain as much information, that of course means that they won't be able to do well in school. And hence they drop out, feeling that they're feeling too much pressure and stuff like that. Then there's also the risk of addiction. Because if you start using drugs, it's not going to be a one time thing. You're not going to do it once and leave. You're going to get addicted. Your brain is going to want these drugs even more, because it'll feel like, I can't function without this. I can't do, or I can't work properly without the drugs, which is why many people find it hard to stop doing drugs in the first place, because they find it hard to stop because their body is not used to working without these drugs. And that is why when most people try to stop, they go back to the drug due to withdrawal symptoms and the health issues that they face, because their body is so used to being on drugs that when they stop, their body feels sick and their body can't function as it was before. Then there's also the physical health consequences, such as diseases and issues to do with the lungs, like lung cancer, throat cancer, liver cirrhosis, which is brought by the excessive intake of alcohol over a long period of time. And it's seen in many adults, because most of these effects that we're talking about, they won't be felt immediately when the teenager starts using drugs, but they'll show up later in life, which is a worse consequence. So we'd rather tackle the problem from the root and tackle the problem now before the teenager starts using drugs, than find the problem later when the person is already addicted and they've already faced this problem and they can't do without the drugs. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlton. You said something at the end that will usher us into the next phase of the conversation. You said it is better to prevent drug abuse in the first place than to try to resolve or rehabilitate people that have already used drugs, because of the effect of drugs on mental health. The same mental health that drove teenagers into drugs, the drugs now messes up with the mental health even more. And you spoke about wet brain, where people will not be able to assimilate and retain information, and of course liver cirrhosis, lung cancer, and all of that. And these things, just hearing the effects of drug abuse, it's already sending shivers down my spine, and also just showing me the gravity of the issue of drug abuse among teenagers. And now that you have really exposed us to this grave consequence, how can teenagers make smart choices to stay away from these drugs? How can we, having known what will befall us teenagers if they get into these drugs, what are the smart choices that we can, choices that we can make to stay away from drugs, and of course encourage our friends to do the same?
First, I think we as teenagers should take the initiative to know the facts first. We should educate ourselves. We should learn about the drugs and not just go off based off of rumors and start using drugs based off of rumors, because most of these rumors that are going around saying that drugs aren't harmful, that drugs will make you better, they'll make you pass in school, they're not true. We should do our research, get the knowledge, get the real information, and get what is real about this drug before going to the drug and start using it while being misinformed, and you get the effects later, which is learning from experience, which we don't want to do with drugs, because drugs are very dangerous and they have very dangerous effects. So you'd rather not learn from experience, but you'd rather learn from the internet. Know your means, know the drug that people are saying is good, get the actual education and know the facts. Secondly, I'd like to say that we should choose our friends wisely. Because if you have good friends, if you have nice friends, they will not get you into drugs. They'll want the best for you. They'll want you to be a good, upright citizen, a good person in future. So they won't take you the wrong direction. If you have bad friends, they'll take you into drugs. They'll mess you up. So we should choose friends wisely so that we may be led in the right direction, and that we don't get into drugs, and that we don't get peer pressured into drugs. Because if you have good friends, they won't peer pressure you and you won't start using drugs out of peer pressure. And thirdly, I'd like to say that you should learn to say no confidently when you mean no. Because most teenagers in the start, of course, they're going to say no because they know drugs are wrong, but they don't stay firm on that no. They start shaking and their opinion starts wavering because of things that we've said before, such as peer pressure and the mental health issues. Because when you learn how to say no and stick to that no and assertively hold your opinion, then you won't be peer pressured into using drugs. We should not just say no, but we should say no firmly, and we should stick to our decision. And I'd also like to say that how we will help our people and how to help our fellow teenagers to stop using drugs is we should start the conversation gently, not to attack them or not to make them feel like they're less of a person just because they use drugs. We should start the conversation gently by using things such as I've noticed that you've been doing dot 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 recently, or I've noticed that you've been doing this recently. And as your friend, I approach you and I'm asking you to stop because of this, and this. And we should also offer support and not shame, because most of the people who use drugs, it's not like they wanted to use drugs in the first place. They find themselves in the position due to things like peer pressure. They find themselves there due to mental illnesses, family neglection. So we should approach them and offer support and not shame, because most of them, they did not want to be there, and they will only feel burdened by your shame to go more into drugs than they will feel to leave drugs. Because if you shame someone, you're making them feel bad, you're making the situation worse. But if you support them, you're getting them out of the situation. And thirdly, we should
Who is that? Me too.
Okay, I sorry about that. I would also say that we should educate our friends, because miseducation and misinformation is one of the major reasons why teenagers start using drugs in the first place. So if you educate people, if you educate your friends, then you're stopping the problem and you're helping them tackle the problem instead of just letting them go out on misinformation. We should also tackle the main issue from the root and not just tell them to stop using drugs. We should support them, take care of them. If there's mental health issues involved, advise them to see a psychologist, advise them to pick better friends, advise them to do this and this and this. By tackling the problem from the root, you're ensuring that they don't go back to the drugs in the first place. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlton. Thank you so much. If you see, I'm with my pen and I'm jotting down some of your thoughts because they are really expository, like I'd already mentioned. And a couple of things you said really stood out for me when it comes to staying away from drugs. And I really hope that our teenagers on the call are taking note of everything that Carlton is saying. And I also really wish that we had more teenagers on the call. So please, if you know teenagers in your life, teenagers in your circle, it's not too late still to send links to parents and send links to teens to get them to be here, because this issue really nobody is immune, so to speak. So we need to really talk about these issues. And Carlton said something about education as a way to stay away from drugs. And this is part of that education, getting young people to talk about the issue and educate their peers. So please, this is another call to get these links out there and let the teenagers and the children in your circle join in. And Carlton, you said a lot of things about being assertive, saying no. I think that's one skill that a lot of both young people and both teenagers and adults really need to learn that skill of assertiveness, because many things we do it because of other people, not because we actually want to do it. And you said something as well that stood out to me. You said something about thinking for yourself, know the facts. So young people, teenagers really need to think for themselves. Don't take anything you're told on face value. Do the research and make informed decisions for yourself and for your future. Thank you so much, Carlton. I could go on and on and on with the various things I gleaned from your session. But before we get to the next speakers, I'll just, open the floor for the audience. If we have any questions for Carlton, I'm sure Carlton is very ready for us. So if we have any questions for Carlton, please, we could put it in the chat box, or we could just unmute and ask Carlton those questions so that we get more insight into the issue at hand. Questions, please. You can send in your questions. You can just unmute and speak, or you can write your questions in the chat box. So while we wait for that, Elsie, please get ready. You're the next in line. Questions? Okay. I don't see any questions, but in the course of Ekechuku, are you asking a question? But in the course of Elsie's session, if we have questions for Elsie and maybe a question comes up for Carlton, please do well to put that in the chat box. Elsie, are you here? Elsie?
Hello.
Hello, Elsie. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, we are happy to
Thank
have
you.
you here, Elsie. So I'll just go over Elsie's profile and then we'll jump right in to the conversation. So Elsie Klinogo is a young girl from Ghana. She's a critical thinker with strong analytical skills. As a curious individual with a strong passion for human rights issues, she aims to be a lawyer. Please, let's put our hands together as we welcome Elsie to Hangout with the Stars 2025. Please, let's show some love for Elsie. Oh, and my bad, we didn't even get the chance to send some love to Carlton. Carlton, please forgive me. Carlton did so amazingly that I forgot myself. Please, let's just show our appreciation for Carlton and send him some emojis. Please, let's send Carlton some emojis while we get ready to welcome Elsie. Well done, Carlton. Well done, well done, well done. Are we on this call at all? Everywhere is so quiet. Please let me see some action in the chat box. Please let me be sure that we are together. Yay, thank you. Carlton, you can see all the love. That was an amazing session, amazing presentation, Carlton. Thank you so much. Like I said, I've been writing down a lot of things. Thank you so much, Carlton. Well done, well done, well done. Yes, Ngozi Eluemuno says, well done, an informative session. Carlton, that's for you. Well done. All right. So welcome, Elsie. We're happy to have you here to share your opinions and share your thoughts as well. Still talking about drug abuse among teenagers.
Pardon me.
Can you hear me, Elsie? Can you hear me, Elsie?
Yes, please, can you repeat the question?
Yes. So
Yes,
I said
please.
welcome once again, and we are still on the subject of drug abuse among teenagers, right? So a quick one, Elsie. I want to understand. Carlton has spoken a lot about the effects of drug abuse and how to stay away from drug abuse. I want you to share with us, in your own opinion, how family support and open communication can help teenagers avoid drug abuse. Elsie, did you get that? Elsie, did you hear me? Elsie? Okay. Elsie, are you back? Are you here?
Hello.
Yes. Should I go over the question again? Elsie, please, if you can hear me, let me know.
No, they're mom.
Wow. Elsie, are you here? Oh.
Okay.
All right, Elsie, just take your time and get yourself together. I think we can just go to Chantel. Elsie, you'll be next after Chantel. All right? Is that okay?
Hello.
Elsie,
Hello.
are you okay? Are you good? Can we go on?
Sorry, please, I had
What?
yes. I had some internet problems.
Okay, other than that, you're all right. You're okay.
Yes.
All right. So Elsie, I was taking off from where Carlton left off. We spoke about the effect of drug abuse, and he spoke about physical effects, mental effect, and the rest of it. We just want to know from you, from your opinion, how can family support and open communication help teenagers avoid drug abuse? You're muted, Elsie, if you're talking. Okay, I see that Elsie's network is not helping her at this time. Chantel, are you on the call? Chantel, if you're here, please let me know. Chantel? Okay. Zama? Zama, are you here? Oh, please unmute Chantel. She said the host is not allowing her to unmute.
Hello.
All righty, Chantel, good to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Chantel, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, welcome to Hangout with the Stars 2025. We're happy to have you here. So we'll just continue the session and take up from where we left off with Carlton and continue our conversation. So I'll read Chantel's profile and then we dive straight into Chantel's presentation. Chantel Kumari is a standout key stage 3 student at junior high, a senior category, with a passion for learning and leadership. As an intermediate programmer, she earned a coveted scholarship to an exclusive summer program for girls who code. In 2025, she participated in the Middle School Model United Nations Conference and qualified for the global round of the World Scholars Cup. An A-list student, Chantel consistently demonstrates academic excellence. Beyond the classroom, she is deeply committed to her community, often joining her mother in charity runs, supporting a local orphanage. She is actively working towards her bronze level in the Duke of Edinburgh Award and is on track to becoming an assessor. As a school prefect, Chantel exemplifies confidence, integrity, and strong leadership, always standing up for what she believes in and inspiring those around her. Welcome, Chantel. We want to get a dose of that inspiration and education from you today. Please let's show Chantel some love in the chat box. Let's welcome Chantel. Let's give her a Hangout with the Stars welcome. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Chantel. So just to continue, like I already said, from Carlton's discussion and from Elsie's discussion. Of course, she's going to be joining back soon. Now, how does drug abuse affect a teenager's education and future success? In your opinion, how does that happen?
So, drug abuse impacts teenage lives in unimaginable ways, and it unfortunately puts their education and future success in jeopardy. Some of the ways that drug abuse affects teenage lives is the academic performance. So it can cause poor academic performance, like assignments being missed, grades dropping, and turning bright, promising students into teen addicts. Another way that drugs can affect teenagers is their behavior. So it can cause behavioral issues like once calm, composed teenagers can turn into secretive, moody, and often aggressive people. And sadly, in most cases, drug abuse can cause learning disabilities. As the substances can hinder brain development in areas related to decision making and impulse control. And then, in accordance to a teenager's future success, drugs can negatively impact their future success, like they can cause health problems, career setbacks, and legal consequences. C, employers often look down on people who have a history of drug abuse, and that's not something we want our teenagers to go through. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chantel, for drawing our attention to how drugs can affect our future as teenagers, affect future and affect the education. You said something about employers, which is very key, because most teenagers now don't have jobs and are not looking for one. There's still, the future is coming and we have to prepare for the future. And keeping ourselves drug free is part of the ways we are preparing for that future. So thank you so much, Chantel, for shedding light on on that issue. Now, what are the long-term consequences of using drugs during adolescence? What are the long-term consequences of using drugs during adolescence?
As teenagers, our mind and body are still growing and developing. And at this time, it's crucial that we focus on our future. And when drugs enter the picture, that changes everything. So drugs can cause a lot of risks, like brain development. So as our brain develops into our mid-20s, especially the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of decision making, impulse control, and judgments. So drugs can cause lasting permanent damages to the brain structure as our brains are still developing. And then another risk that drugs cause to teenagers is mental health and physical health problems. So physical health problems like liver, lung, and kidney damage can arise from drug use. We also have heart and blood pressure problems. And then we also have a weakened immune system, and in women, fertility issues. Then for mental health, we have increased mental illness and mood disorders like anxiety, depression, and paranoia. Then we also have psychosis. So drugs like LCD and meth and high doses of cannabis can cause paranoia and trigger hallucinations. And then lastly, we have addiction and dependency in teenagers. So addiction and dependency can trigger a cycle in adults as well. We start with experimentation in a teenager's early years. Then we move on to regular use in late teens to early 20s. Then after that, we move on to dependency of the substance. Then after that, adults often try to quit using drugs, attempted quitting, then we move on to relapse. So that usually triggers a cycle in teenagers through to adults, and that's one of the risks of drugs.
That's really profound, Chantel. Thank you so much. You said something about the cycle. So you begin as a teenager, you're enjoying the drugs, and then it gets to a point where you're dependent on it, you're addicted to it, and then it now gets to a point where you're willing to quit. But at that point, it feels like the drug has taken over your will and you cannot just let it go. So instead of teenagers getting to that point, it's safest to stay away from drugs. Totally. Now, how can staying drug-free help in achieving your dreams and building a better future for yourself? Having seen what you said about the effect of drugs, how can staying drug-free really help build that?
So, no matter what our goal is in life, our choices dictate whether they push us towards or further away from that goal. So, choosing to stay drug free is one of those choices, and arguably the most important and powerful one in a teen addict's life. Why? Because staying drug free allows you to stay in control of who you are, which is what a lot of teenagers strive to achieve in their early teens. And then another thing is drugs don't just hurt our health, they also distract us, they also waste our time. And another thing is that drugs do not allow us to be present in our lives. Staying drug free can build someone's self confidence, which is something that teenagers need to have as they navigate through life. And those are staying drug free are one of the most important things and one of the most powerful things that a teen addict can go through. Another thing is staying drug free can allow you to stay away from jail and allow you to stay away from things that can make you take an about turn in life. I think that by staying drug free, it really allows you to be yourself and to experience your passions and to experience what you want to achieve in life, because drug addicts often feel as if they have no future and are alone in life. And that's one thing I want to draw attention to parents, because parents have a way that they can support their kids especially as they're going through teenagehood. As teenagers are going through teenagehood, they often feel alone and feel like they cannot turn to anyone. And parents have a responsibility to be there for their teenagers as they are going through this. And for our teenagers, we need to understand that by using drugs, we're handing over our power to something that has the ability and potential to destroy our lives.
Thank you so much, Chantel. You said some very strong and powerful words there. Thank you so much for that presentation. You said something that drugs will not allow teenagers to experience themselves. Just being with yourself, experiencing yourself. And you said it allows us not to be present in our lives. And we want to be present in our lives. We want to enjoy the journey of life from teenagehood to adulthood. That journey is really supposed to be enjoyed. But drug takes that joy from teenagers. And it also takes that joy from even the families of people, teenagers or adults involved with drugs. I'll give the room open. Please, let's ask questions. Let us take advantage of the research of our panelists. Let's take advantage of the expertise that our panelists have gathered, preparing for this session. Please, let's ask questions, unmute and ask questions. Ask Chantel questions. I'm sure there are questions for Chantel on the issues we've raised. Please send in your questions on the chat box, and then comments, questions. Please, let's ask questions. Please, let's be together and let us ask more questions. God, am I seeing your hand? Okay, Carlton is asking a question. How has your experience been with teenagers who use drugs?
Okay. I don't think I've ever been around a teenager who uses drugs and substances, but yeah, I don't think I've ever gone through an experience with a person that I know who experiences drugs, who uses drugs and substances. So if Carlton would like to expand on this question.
Okay, Carlton. Carlton, do you want to expose on your question? Okay, so while Carlton is at that, Audrey Uday asked a question. She says, how do teenagers who are addicted to drugs fight to abstain from it? Or we'll say, how can teenagers who are addicted to drugs fight to abstain from it?
I think that's by communicating what they are feeling and how they are dealing with the problems, because using drugs doesn't just come out of nowhere. There's often something that has triggered the use of drugs. So by communicating what they have experienced and what they are dealing with, then I think that that's one way that they can fight to abstain from drugs.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chantel. Teenagers who are addicted to drugs, I mean, like we already said, prevention is always better than cure. But when we have teenagers who are already involved in drugs, of course, there's rehabilitation, there's therapy, and all to get them drug free. So thank you so much, Chantel. Okay, go on, Chantel.
Okay, and also the first step to fighting drug abuse is acknowledging the fact that you are an addict. That's the
Yes.
first step to fighting drug abuse. And The next step is open communication. And of course, from that, you move on to early rehabs and
Thank you so much. You said something very pivotal, being true to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. If you're addicted, say you are addicted so that you can find the help that you need. Thank you so much, Chantel. Carlton says that you've already answered his question, so there's no need to expound on it. If we have more questions, please let's feel free to ask, unmute, ask. And Arella Ude says, thank you. Okay. Arella says, how will you know someone who uses drugs? Signs and symptoms of a drug user. That's a good question.
as I said, signs and symptoms of a drug user. As I said, there's physical symptoms, there's mental symptoms. Like, for example, like there's obviously for mental symptoms that someone uses drugs, they often experience hallucinations and delusions. They often depressed, they experience anxiety. Then of course, physically drug users don't usually have a loss of appetite, so they don't really eat, and they experience weakened immune systems. They are easily prone to illnesses, drowsiness, trembling. Yeah. Those are all signs and symptoms of a drug user.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chantel. And these symptoms and signs are really really scary. So we are recommending strongly that teenagers, adults stay drug free. Stay drug free. Thank you so much, Chantel, for giving that beautiful presentation and for answering your questions really beautifully. Already the compliments are already trickling in. Noella says, thank you so much, Chantel. That was an outstanding presentation. Folashade says, excellent questions and responses. Yes. So please, if we don't have any further questions for Chantel, let us give her a round of applause. Chantel, thank you so much. Namani says, what lovely. Carlton says, impressive articulation and delivery. Chantel, take your flowers, take your applause. Everybody is giving you compliments for an outstanding presentation. Thank you so much, Chantel. Please, can we put our hands together for Chantel? Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Arella Ode is giving you a thumbs up. Thank you. If Elsie is around, please let me know. Zama, are you here? Please let me know. Elsie, are you here? Please let me know as well. Elsie, Zama, are we together?
Hello, everybody. This is Noella. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. I want to say a big thank you to Carlton and Chantel for the brilliant presentations that they made this evening. These topics were well researched, and one can actually tell the level of preparation that went into getting this done. The presentations were pulled off excellently well. That, these children just pulled us into this pandemic called drug addiction among teenagers. Thank you so much. I would like everybody on this call to please type in the chat section one thing that stood out for you from the presentations made by Chantel and by Carlton. Chantel told us that she has given us the symptoms, what to look out for in drug addicts. And there's something that Carlton said that I found really, really interesting. He said, when you are trying to correct the addicts, you have to do that in love. If you come off as judgmental, they are going to withdraw. So if you're going to talk to drug addicts to quit the addiction or to quit the use of drugs, how we present these things matters a lot. If we're trying to help somebody, we shouldn't come off as accusatory. I love that. It's good to show empathy to these people because when someone is using drugs, they truly do not have control over what they do anymore. They need the drugs to stay alive, more or less. So we need to approach them with empathy. Alice is back. Alice, please, you can take over. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mrs. Noella, for that awesome session you had with us briefly. My network actually kicked me out. Elsie, are we together?
Hello.
Elsie?
Yes, please.
Okay, so welcome, Elsie. Welcome. I see that your network is better now. So I'll still go ahead to read Elsie's profile as we welcome Elsie. Before I do that, okay, we've already given Chantel a round of applause, and Mrs. Noella has also given her feedback on Carlton and Chantel's beautiful presentation. So once again, thank you so much, Chantel. I thoroughly enjoyed the session. It was both educative and informative. Thank you. So Elsie, welcome back. We're happy to have you on the call. I'll read through Elsie's profile again, and then we'll dive straight into the conversation. So Elsie Ajao Klinogo is a young girl from Ghana. She's a critical thinker with strong analytical skills, As a curious individual with strong passion for human rights, she aims to be a lawyer. Please, can we give Elsie a warm welcome? Welcome, Elsie. We are happy to have you again, and we hope that your network will allow us to have a beautiful conversation. So Elsie is going to be talking about family support, the role of family, the role of the community in supporting teenagers to stay drug-free and to support teenagers who are already using drugs. So welcome, Elsie, once again. Yes, people are welcome. Namani Roma says, you're very welcome, Elsie. And I echo that with him. So Elsie, how can family support and open communication help teenagers avoid drug abuse? Like I said earlier, we've spoken a lot about the effect of drugs and what drug can do, what being drug-free can do for our future as well. So now how can family, let's narrow in on the family, and open communication help teenagers avoid drug abuse?
Okay, so First of all, family support is a service a family renders to its members in shaping their social well-being and helping them get out of challenging situations. On the other hand, open communication is the process of creating a conducive environment in which or where the family member is freely, honestly, and sincerely shares their concerns, thoughts, feelings, emotions, and candid opinions without being judged, harassed, criticized, intimidated, scolded, etc., etc. So, to the main question, how can family support and open communication help teenagers avoid drug abuse? So, family support and open communication provides teenagers with a sense of belonging and security, contributing to emotional stability and resilience. Open communication fosters empathy and allows family members to understand the teenagers' perspectives, values, and needs. That's the second point. Okay. So the next, when teenagers feel heard and understood, they are more likely to share their experiences and emotions, strengthening emotional connections. Open communication provides a platform for teenagers to express their feelings, seek support, and find solutions, contributing to better mental health. So that's the end.
Thank you so
For
much, Elsie. Thank you so much, Elsie. I mean, you said a lot of things about open communication. It gives room for empathy, and teenagers are more relaxed and more can be more vulnerable to actually share what is going on with them and what is happening in their lives, both at school and in their personal lives. And that's a very, very interesting point, especially for parents to note on how they can actually support their children to stay drug-free, to avoid drug abuse. I think it was Carlton that was saying something about assertiveness, that most times the teenager starts out by saying no, but when the pressure mounts, the teenager can give into that pressure. But when there's open communication in the family, the child can bring that conversation, say, this is happening in my school. My fellow student is trying to get me to do this. That way, actions can be taken that will actually keep children drug-free. So thank you so much, Elsie, for that eye-opening presentation. Now, Mrs. Noella said something when she was making a comment about the presentation of Carlton and Chantel. She said something about the fact that people that are addicted to drugs really now need those drugs to stay alive because they have been so used to it that the drug they are now one with the drug, so to speak. So sometimes, most times, they cannot help themselves and they need help outside of themselves. And that leads me to my next question for you, Elsie. How can prayer and cultivating a personal relationship with God help teenagers cope with stress and other life challenges which lure them to drugs? How can prayer and cultivating a personal relationship with God help teenagers cope with stress and other challenges that lure them to drugs, as well as also help teenagers to stay away from drugs, even for those that have begun using drugs?
Okay, so in Proverbs in the Bible, in Proverbs 22, verse 6, the Bible admonishes parents and the family to train up a child the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it. It is the responsibility of parents to inculcate in their children a Christ-centered relationship. This has to be an international and conscious effort by every parent in order to firmly position the children to cope with stress and other life challenging other life challenges that lure them to drugs. Prayer and personal relationship with God instills the fear of God in the teenager, according to Psalm 119, verse 1. Your word I have hidden in my heart, that I might not sin against you. Prayer and personal relationships with God offer a refuge from the pressures, stress, and pressures, stress, and I'm sorry.
Okay,
So,
Elsie, we are here with you.
okay. So, prayer and personal relationship with God offers a refuge from oh, a refuge from the pressures, stress, and amenities of adolescence, providing comfort and peace. Another point, prayer and personal relationships with God can help teens manage anxiety and stress by shifting their focus to God and trusting cure in his care instead of relying on friends. So prayer and strong personal relationships with God to a large extent prevent the devil from its cunning and deceiving taking advantage of the innocence, ignorance, and vulnerability of teenagers. So that's the end of the prayer
Thank
part.
Thank you so much, Elsie. There are a lot of things you said that really stood out to me. You said that parents should raise their children in a Christ-centered way. Parents should raise their children, and you quoted from the book of Proverbs that said, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. And you also said something that really stood out to me as well, that, when you have to cultivate that personal relationship with God, instead of you to seek validation and comfort from friends or from drugs, you know that you can actually get that comfort, that high, as it were, from God and from his word. And that way, this prayer and a personal relationship can actually keep us away from drugs or help us to come out of the addiction. So thank you so much, Elsie, for really throwing light on that. Please, I'll implore us now, if we have questions for Elsie, it's a good time to begin to type in our questions. It's a good time to just begin to put our questions together for Elsie. Now, still speaking about family, community, because really, no man lives in a vacuum. We live within family, we live within the community. Now, the question for you, Elsie, will be, what role does the community and society play in keeping teens away from drugs? What role does the community and society play in keeping teens away from drugs?
Okay, so the society and community play crucial roles in preventing drug use among teenagers through various interconnected strategies and influences. So the first point is social norms and values. Communities with strong anti-drug norms create an environment where drug use is less socially acceptable. When the prevailing attitudes in community prioritize health, well-being, and positive behaviors, teens are more likely to conform to these standards. So second point, supportive relationships. Positive relationships with families, friends, mentors, and community members can provide emotional support and guidance for teens. Strong familial ties and healthy friendships can serve as a protective factor against drug use as teens are likely to engage in risky behaviors when they have a solid support system. The third point, access to resources. Communities that provide access to resources such as educational programs,
I think Elsie's network is not on our side. So wait for Elsie to come back and continue her presentation. But a few things that Elsie had already said that's really Elsie, are you back?
Yes.
All right, welcome back. Please continue.
Please, what was the last thing you heard?
You said,
or should I start over again?
I mean, whatever works for you, Elsie. What will make you comfortable? Do you want to start over again?
Yes, please.
Okay, if that makes you comfortable, go ahead.
Okay, so as I said before, society and community play crucial roles in preventing drug use among teenagers through various interconnected strategies and influences. Social norms and values. That's the first point. Communities with strong anti-drug norms create an environment where drug use is less socially acceptable. When the prevailing attitudes in a community prioritize health, well-being, and positive behaviors, teens are more likely to conform to these standards. The second point, supportive relationships. Positive relationships with family, friends, mentors, and community members can provide emotional support and guidance for teens. Strong familial ties and healthy friendships, relationship, can serve as protective factors against drug use. As teens are less likely to engage in risky behaviors when they have solid support system. Okay. We also have education and awareness. So, education and awareness programs. Schools and community organizations that implement drug education and prevention programs can inform teens about the risks and consequences of drug use. Effective programs empower teens with knowledge and skills to resist peer pressure and make informed choices. And the last point, peer influence and engagement. Positive peer influences are critical during adolescence. Communities that foster environments where teens can build healthy friendships and engage in positive group activities often see lower rates of drug use. Peer-led initiatives can reinforce anti-drug sentiments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elsie. You've said a lot of things that I believe that if we have people that work with teenagers on the call, we can implement some of the points that Elsie raised to keep teenagers in our community, in our churches, in our schools drug free. She said something about creating alternatives, to the need to use drugs. So one of the things she said was, she said something about peer-led initiatives. So getting teenagers involved with in initiatives that can keep them out of drugs, encouraging our teenagers to get into clubs in school, outside of school, just engaging, keeping them busy, keeping idle time very, very scanty, so that they are always busy, their minds are busy, there are things to do, so that their minds don't begin to wander into vices. And she said something as well, that strong ties keep teenagers drug free, which is very, very interesting. Healthy relationships are necessary to curb drug abuse. And that was one of the points that Elsie raised. And of course, information, education, sensitization. And I'll keep on bringing it back. This is part of education and information that Blueberry Learning is making available for teenagers, for families to get aware of the pandemic of drug abuse, and also ways to curb the use of drugs among teenagers, using both religious approaches, social approaches, psychological approaches, to see how teenagers can stay free from drugs, and the ones that are already in it can come out of drugs. So thank you so much, Elsie, for really giving this expository presentation on family, community, and the religious aspect to drug abuse among teenagers. Please, if we have questions, this is a good time to ask our questions. This is a good time to ask our questions. Please, if you have questions, do well to write it in the chat box and let us engage Elsie. Zama, please, if you're on the call, just let me know. Zama, are you on the call? Zama, are you on the call? Keshia, are you on the call? Kezia, are you on the call? Kezia, I can see you. Please, if you're here, can you unmute and just say hello?
Yes, I'm on the call.
Welcome, Kezia. So Kezia, you're okay. Zama says okay. So Kezia is next, and then Zama. So back to Elsie. Please, if we have any question, let us do well to ask Elsie. Any questions? Okay, we are really running behind time. If we have any questions, we can keep it and we ask Elsie at the end of the whole presentation. So thank you so much, Elsie. Please, let's give Elsie let's show Elsie our deepest appreciation, our gratitude for this very beautiful and expository session. Elsie, thank you. I learned a lot. I'm always with my pen and my paper so that I can take these points and, it puts some of the recommendations brought forth, even with my work with the teenagers I work with. So thank you so much, Elsie. Please, let's give Elsie a warm applause. Well done, well done, well done, Elsie. Fantastic presentation. Okay, Kezia, yes, Nnamani Roma says informative session, Elsie. So Elsie, the compliments are coming in. Thank you so much. So our next panelist is Kezia Ringquest. So hello, welcome, Kezia. We are happy to have you here. So Kezia Ringquest is a young girl from South Africa. She's a wonderful person. She has a passion in robotics and coding and politics. Her hobby is hockey. She's a public speaker and she's part of COSAS, which is Congress of South African Students. Please let us give Kezia Ringquest a warm Hangout with the Stars welcome. Welcome, Kezia. We're happy to have you on the call, and we are happy to glean from your presentation today. Okay, so welcome again, Kezia. And Kezia will be speaking to us today about how drug abuse affects family well-being of both the user and the family. So Kezia is going to be expanding the effect of drug abuse on not only the user, but the environment of the user, the macro, the micro, the meso environment of the user. So Kezia, how does drug abuse within the family impact the emotional and psychological well-being of both the user and their loved ones?
Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today I want to speak about the critical issues that affect countless families worldwide. Drug abuse among teenagers and how it can affect the user and their loved ones. Drug abuse among teenagers can affect them by dropping out of school and can increase unemployment rates. So the impact of drug abuse within a family can be devastating, cause emotional and distress for both the user and their loved ones. For the user, the drug abuse can lead to addiction, mental health issues, and loss of identity. But it's not just the user who suffer. Family members often experience anxiety, depression, guilt, and shame. Children may feel neglected, abandoned, or even traumatized. The emotional abandoned can be overwhelming. Family relationships can become strained, leading to mistrust and distance. Thank you.
So much, Kezia. A lot of points you raised about the devastating impact of drug abuse on the user and the family members. You said something about the children feeling neglected because of the use of drugs by parents. You spoke about strained relationship, and you spoke about emotional distress, addiction, loss of identity. I think that stood out to me. Loss of identity for the user of drugs, and of course shame for the family, because drug abuse in society, there's a stigma around drug abuse. So a member of a family that uses drugs puts that family at a risk of being stigmatized as a family of people that use drugs. So thank you so much, Kezia, for just really opening us up to the impact of drug abuse on both the user and their loved ones. Now, what are some of the community-based strategies that can really help to rebuild lives after drug abuse and support recovery?
So community-based strategies can help rebuild lives affected by drug abuse and support recovery. Support groups, they can include support groups, counseling service, and peer mentorship programs, and provide a safe and supportive environment for users and their family.
Yes, support groups, very, very important, so that there can be that shared, so both the shared issue and then shared solutions. So thank you for that as well, Kezia. Community-based strategies, and you spoke about support groups. Peer mentorship support groups can really help with recovery or recovery from drug abuse. And then now going to schools, like I said already, that drug abuse affects people at both individual levels, the micro level, the macro level, the meso level. So in what ways can schools and local organizations collaborate to prevent drug abuse and support families dealing with its consequences? In what ways can school and local organizations collaborate to prevent drug abuse as well as support families dealing with its consequences?
Okay, so school and local organizations can also play a valid role in preventing drug abuse and supporting families dealing with its consequences. By implementing um, by implementing oh, why am I getting stuck? Okay, so like we can make a difference. We need to work together to address this issue. We need to provide support, understanding to those affected by drug abuse. We need to create and engage recovery programs, helping people affected by drug abuse for like foster homes and shelter, because most people that are affected by drugs often stay they don't have houses to live in. You often see them on the street, so shelter would help provide for people affected by the drugs.
Thank you. Thank you, Kezia. Schools and local organizations can collaborate to prevent drug abuse and support families. You said something about providing shelter.
Yes.
Because most of the drug abuse, people that are addicted to drugs are mostly homeless. And then I think you mentioned something around awareness raising, education, and like I keep on saying, this is part of why Blueberry Learning is putting this together to really put the word out there about this pandemic. Please, if we have questions for Kezia, this is a good time to just put our questions in the chat box and get to hear more from Kezia. Are there questions, please? You can put them in the chat box. Yes. Questions, please, for Kezia. Now, Kezia, we'll just narrow in on the schools a little bit more, or maybe you can take a cue from your own school. Are there ways that are there things that your school has put in place to keep students drug-free?
So at my school, Aldomine, they have like programs which is called Sanka. People from Sanka come to our school and then they advise kids not to fall in drugs and help them prevent drugs from schools and give them advice to prevent drugs, alcohol, dropouts. Yeah, that's all.
That program helps to sensitize and to raise awareness around the effect of drug abuse and how students can actually stay drug-free. That's a very laudable initiative, and well done to the conveners of the program you spoke about. Please, are there questions for Kezia? Are there questions for Kezia? Okay. For want of time. Okay. Okay. For want of time, since we'll still have some time at the end to go through questions. And okay, someone is asking, what is the name of your school?
The name of my school is Elder Main High School, sorry.
I want to put that in the chat box. Okay. Thank you so much, Kezia. Please, can we give Kezia a warm welcome, a warm thank you? Can we say thank you to Kezia? Can we say thank you to Kezia? Thank you, Kezia. Yes, she has typed the name of the school. Thank you. Okay, Chantel is asking a question. Kezia, let's have you for 1 minute, please. Chantel is saying, if you had enough reach, which African countries would you want to reach this initiative? Okay, that'll be our last question for Kezia. And then we'll keep the rest till the last speaker goes. So Kezia, there's a question for you. If you had enough reach, which African country would you want to reach with this initiative?
I would say Nigeria.
Okay, that's interesting. Why Nigeria?
I don't know, to be honest.
Thank you so much, Kezia.
Thank you so much for that, Kezia. We would like to have you in Nigeria too, to extend that initiative to us. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So Zama, are you here? Please, let's give, okay, I see. Thank you so much, Kezia, for this lovely presentation. Yes, thank you. Nice work, Kezia. Carlton says nice work. Arela says thank you. So thank you so much, Kezia. It was a very eye-opening presentation with you. Noella is giving you flowers. Here are your flowers. All right, Zama, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Welcome, Zama. Can we see your pretty face?
I'm having problems with the background. So I do not have a background because I'm using an alternative because of load reduction.
Come, Zama.
Yes.
Yes, you're very welcome. So I'm going to read your profile and then we go straight into presentation. So Zama Zizi is a slightly nerdy girly girl with a passion for science, aesthetics, politics, and self-development. Her natural curiosity drives her to explore everything from skincare routines to public speaking, always striving to learn and grow. Whether she's breaking down complex concepts, designing creative projects, or chasing her many 2025 goals, she's focused, ambitious, and full of youthful determination, always ready to learn and experience new things. Please, let's give Zama a warm welcome. Okay, Zama, I can see your face now.
Okay, hi everyone.
Hi, Zama. Welcome to Hangout with the Stars 2025. So Zama is going to be speaking about the intersection between mental health and drug abuse. So Zama Namani Roma is saying, hello Zama, you're welcome. Nox is saying, hi Zama Zizi. So there's a lot of love in the chat box. Welcome, Zama. So Zama,
Thank you.
How can drug abuse affect the mental health of teenagers? Let's narrow in on mental health. How can drug abuse affect the mental health of teenagers?
Okay, before I can delve deeper on how drug abuse can affect the mental health of teenagers, I'll firstly like to define what drug abuse and mental health are, and those are the main words or phrases that we'll be dealing with today. So, drug abuse is the use of a substance for a purpose rather than what it was intended for or in excessive amounts. Mental health is not only a state of being mentally well, but it is a state whereby you can process information and make decisions clearly. So the question is how drug abuse affects mental health. So when someone uses drugs, especially over a long period of time, it can seriously change the way their brain works. Drugs affect neurotransmitters, which are the brain chemicals responsible for sending messages throughout your body. These messages allow you to do everything from breathing and thinking to talking, eating, and mostly moving. Some drugs, like marijuana and heroin, imitate natural neurotransmitters, and this can trick the brain and cause it to send confusing or even harmful signals over time. This rewiring of the brain affects mood, behavior, memory, and decision making. For example, drugs like cannabis, especially when used regularly and in large quantities, has been linked to anxiety, depression, and in some cases, psychosis or schizophrenia. Stimulants like cocaine can lead to paranoia, extreme anxiety, and even hallucinations. Another drug like ecstasy and other hallucinogens may trigger or worsen memory problems and emotional instability. Even prescribed drugs, when misused, can, can have serious effects like opioid painkillers and morphine can cause depression. Birth control pills, while useful, may increase the risk of mood swings and emotional imbalance.
Thank you so much, Zama. That was really an electrifying presentation, just really outlining the various kinds of drugs and what they do. I heard you saying that cannabis is linked with anxiety and schizophrenia. You also said something about drugs rewiring the brain. That was really, really, really insightful for me. And I know that the members of the audience are taking notes. And something that you said that also really stood out, that even prescribed drugs, when used out of proportion or out of prescription, is also drug abuse. So I think that's something we can take to heart, that when we speak of drug abuse, it's not just cannabis, marijuana, it's not just cocaine, meth, LCD, and the rest. Even drugs on the counter in the pharmacies used outside prescription and outside of the dosage is still drug abuse. So thank you for, shedding light on that perspective as well. Now, what are some of the common mental health challenges that teenagers who abuse drugs face?
Okay, so the statistics that tell a story, and let's look at the data globally. About 50% of people with severe mental illnesses also struggle with substance abuse. In sub-Saharan Africa, 41.6% of people have used some form of substance in their lifetime. In Central Africa, the number rises to about 55.5 thousand. Okay, 55.5%, I meant to say. In South Africa, substances like alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis are commonly used among adolescents and young adults. Alarmingly, use has also been documented in children as young as 12, 13, or 14 years old. So the question is, what are some examples of mental illnesses that can be a resultant of teens abusing drugs? There might be depression, conduct problems, personality disorders, suicidal thoughts, and suicidal attempts. As I had mentioned previously, drugs, prescribed or non-prescribed, legal or illegal, rewire the brain into thinking that it is maybe experiencing a feeling of ecstasy, feeling of joy, when it is actually not experiencing that. And in cases whereby it's experiencing actual feelings of joy, it takes those emotions and turns them into sadness, aggression, and depression, which lead to the different types of mental issues or mental health problems that teens can acquire because of abusing drugs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zama. A lot to take from your presentation. You spoke about depression as one of the common mental health challenges that teenagers who abuse drugs face. You spoke about suicidal thoughts and the actual suicide itself. Thank you so much. I believe that a lot of us are really taking note of what you're saying about mental health issues that teenagers face because of drugs. You said something as well, you reiterated the fact that drug abuse is beyond the social drugs we think about. Even the drugs prescribed, the drugs in the pharmacies can still be abused. And I feel a couple of persons are taking note of that. So thank you for really exposing us to that. And of course, part of the things you mentioned about the common mental health challenges that teenagers that abuse drugs face is the rewiring of the brain, tricking the brain to actually, think of these things as saviors instead of problems that they are. So thank you so much for that, Zama. And then in order for us to stay away from these drugs that you have mentioned, the mental health implications of using these drugs, what are some healthier ways that we can cope with difficult emotions instead of using drugs? Because we have established earlier that most times teenagers use drugs as a way of coping with mental health issues, and these drugs still bring more mental health issues. So the desire is actually cut short. The desire is not met. So what are some ways that we can actually, healthier ways that we can cope, teenagers can cope with difficult emotions instead of using drugs?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let us acknowledge the fact that there is no such thing as a safe drug for teens. It is a myth to think that a drug must be abused for it to cause harm. Even taking a prescribed drug exactly as instructed can have mental side effects. We must remember there is no completely safe drug, especially for adolescents. Drugs contain chemicals that can numb or block certain areas of the brain, as previously mentioned. This is why even short-term use and the answers lies in promoting healthy habits, especially for young people who are going through emotional challenges. Here are a few alternatives to cope with stress and difficult emotions in a healthier way than abusing drugs or just using drugs in general. Firstly, we must get moving. Well, physical activity boosts mood and reduces stress. Whether it's walking, dancing, biking, or playing sports, moving your body helps your brain to stay balanced. Then we have relaxing and breathing. Take a time to actually relax, to meditate, to breathe, and do some yoga to calm your nervous system and clear your mind. One of the many things that we should do is talk it out. As previously mentioned by the other panelists, communication is very powerful. So talk to someone you trust, a friend, a family member, a counselor, a teacher, and as previously mentioned, a mentor. And mostly, you must know your feelings. Understanding your emotions is key. Learn how to name your feelings and practice being kind to yourself during tough times. Living a healthy lifestyle, for example, getting good sleep, having nutritious food, and healthy routines support your emotional well being. A balanced life lowers the desire to escape through substances. Be creative. If you are a person who's creative, express yourself through drawing, music, acting, talking, writing, and creativity is a healthy outlet for emotion. Solve problems. When life becomes overwhelming, break your problem into small steps. Take action and ask for help when you need it. Seek professional help. Therapy or counseling can help when things feel too heavy. It is a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness to ask for help. The current strategies to battle drug use is a strategy aimed at adult minds. Yet you are not dealing with adult minds. You are dealing with adolescent minds that are yet to develop till 26 years old. Teens are more likely to use drugs in a dangerous way and are more likely to engage in dangerous activities alongside drug use, and this shapes the adults that will inhabit the countries in future. It is important to attack problems in areas where they run rampant, but you should not use a strategy centralized around a generation that is not being targeted. Let's break the stigma, educate ourselves and others, and build a community where mental health and well-being are the priority. With that being said, I believe that the most beneficial strategy is for you to move your your strategy for drug abuse and how to battle drug abuse from focusing on people that are older 20 years and above, but focusing on teens who are using current trends and are interested in current trends instead of looking at what people in their 20s are interested on, like on instead of looking at what people in their 20s are interested on, use current trends, current dances, amapiano, and many more to engage with teens. With that being said, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, Zama. Thank you so much. I mean, a lot to learn. You said something about ways to cope, healthier ways to cope with difficult emotions. You said get moving. That's very important. Exercise. You said something about dancing, sport, get moving. And when you get moving, there are feel-good hormones that you release that can actually give you the high that you need for that moment. So really get moving. You spoke something about breathing, relaxing, meditation, and you spoke something about talking it out, communication. And you said something as well that really stood out to me, that there is no fear, no shame in seeking help. And you said something that seeking help is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. And you said something about being kind to yourself, healthy lifestyle, being creative, and then solving problems. So when challenges come, instead of running away to hide in drugs, we set out to solve those problems. And you spoke about a balanced life as a remedy to coping with challenges and staying drug-free. Thank you so much, Zama. It was really explosive and electrifying. Thank you for that beautiful presentation. Please let's show Zama some love in the chat box. Let's say thank you, Zama. Impressive. Tweet Gift says this very impressive. Noella says thank you so much, Zama. That was explosive presentation. I agree. It was explosive. If we have questions for Zama, please let's go ahead and write it in the chat box. Namani said, I really love your presentation. If we have questions for Zama, please let's just go ahead and put it in the chat box so that we can get Zama to shed more light on issues that we are not clear on. If you have questions, please do well to put that in the chat box. While we are waiting for questions to come up, thank you so much, the audience, for really staying with us throughout the session. We would just like to also get the audience to share their thoughts if they have questions or comments about the topic and the issue we have discussed so far. Chantel says very well articulated and confident. Carlton says amazing, amazing, amazing. Zama, take your flowers. Nawela says here are your flowers, and I'm giving those flowers to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So there's a question here, Zama. Some drug abusers claim that drugs help their creativity. What do you think?
I believe that drug abuse does not really help with your creativity. As previously mentioned, using drugs can mislead your brain into believing in something that is not actually true. And as I also mentioned, the fact that the use of drugs, whether it is legal or prescribed, non-prescribed, has an effect on your brain. And that's when someone is using a drug, prescribed or unprescribed, it is bound to send like negative or wrong neurotransmitters to your brain. And thus people might think that they are creative when they're actually not creative.
Thank you. So the drugs actually deceive us. Or the drugs
Yes,
actually deceive the users, not us, deceive the users to think that they are being creative, even when they are not being creative. Thank you so much, Sama, for that. Are there other questions? Any further questions? Okay. Mrs. Noella, please, I would like to hear from you.
I am trying to recover from all I took in. I was just typing and typing and typing away. I couldn't stop typing. Thank you so much to all our brilliant speakers, Carlton, Chantel, Zama, Kersia, and Elsie. Thank you. You guys were brilliant. I can't say anymore, really. You guys just blew me away. And I believe that with what we have done today, we've actually started a revolution against drug abuse among teenagers. I will plead that anybody who is on this call should please consider this an act of charity to send the YouTube link for this presentation, the one for yesterday and the one for today, to as many people as possible, parents, teenagers. Please let this be a project that all of us have to embark on. It doesn't matter that we don't have 1 million people on this call. The most important thing is that the seed has been planted. We've had this discussion on social media impacts on young people and drug abuse among teenagers. What we can do to not let this end as just a Zoom conversation, for this, what we have done today to be fruitful, is for us to take it into the world. We've had this conversation, but the drug abusers are not here. And some people who are still contemplating using drugs are most likely not on this call. What do we do? Let us spread the word. The content has been created. Our children have worked so hard to make this day happen. Let's also make it worthwhile for them. Let their energy and their efforts not be in vain. So let us go now and begin to spread the word. Let us share the links for yesterday's presentation and today's presentation to schools, churches, worship places. We all have WhatsApp groups where we belong. Our schools' WhatsApp groups, churches' WhatsApp groups, peer WhatsApp groups, everywhere, to parents, to children, teenagers. Let's get this word out there. Thank you so much, everybody. God bless you. And I hope to see you again next edition of Hangout with the Stars. All of you, our panelists, you are true stars. Thank you.
So much, Mrs. Noella, the convener of Hangouts with the Stars. This has been such a beautiful gathering, and we truly appreciate everyone that has stayed with us till the end of this session. Please, if you have comments, feedback, we are happy to take your feedback. How has this Hangouts with the Stars impacted you? What have you learned that you did not know prior? And what do you want to see further? Please just send your feedback in the chat box. And if you want to say something, please feel free to unmute and speak. So let's see your feedback. Please give us feedback in the chat box. What has this done for you? What has this done for your child? How has this changed your perspective? What are you going to be doing what are you going to do going forward? Please let's put that in the chat while we bear in mind that we need to share this, like Mrs. Noella has already said. So please would like us to turn on our camera for a group photo. We await your feedback and then turn on your camera for a group photo. Can we turn on our camera, please? Thank you, Kezia. Thank you, Namani, Uroma. Thank you, Chantel. Please, can we turn our cameras on for a group photo? Carlton, thank you. Tobechuku, thank you. Noella, thank you. Isabel Nwankwo, could you please turn on your camera for a group photo? Irene, Arella, John. Please, who's taking the group photo? Can you let us know?
Yes, I am. I'm just waiting for more persons to turn on their cameras. I think we just have about 8 persons, so we need more. So if you've not turned on your camera, just please turn on your camera so we can take the group photo. And when you turn on your cameras, please smile. Iroma is not smiling, she's frowning. Okay, I think we can work with what we have already. So on the count of 3, I'm going to take the group photo. So 1, 2, 3. Photo taken. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Blueberry Learning. Thank you. So we call it a wrap. Still waiting for feedbacks. Please send your feedback. Thank you so much. Okay, we are still waiting for feedbacks. You could send the feedback on the WhatsApp group. If you're on the WhatsApp group, you could send the feedback. You could send the feedback directly to GAD or Blueberry Learning. Maybe we'll have a number, something we can send our feedbacks to. Appreciate feedbacks. On that note, we're saying bye from Hangout with the Stars 2025, and we'll see you in Hangout with the Stars 2026. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.